Hey guys, thank you for watching Corporate and Cultured. Before we continue, before we move forward, what we need to do is follow me on social media and subscribe. All right, what's up? If you do not know the topic of today's video yet, I'm gonna tell you right now. So today we're gonna be talking about what do I do after graduation? And I know we've all had that daunting conversation as you approach graduation or you approach your next step where people are like, so what are your plans? Like, who are you working for? What are you doing next? And I know this conversation can get extremely annoying and taxing, honestly, especially if you're in a space where you don't know. So now that I'm a year out of school, I've seen this conversation go down. I've been a part of this conversation. I've discussed it with my peers, my friends, and even some of my mentors. And I feel like I have some value to add to the conversation. And instead of boggling you guys down with questions, I'm hopefully here to provide some solutions and some answers so that the next time you find yourself in that scenario, you can approach it with full confidence. So before I get started, I want to submit a verse. It's kind of the anchor verse of my video. It's Jeremiah 29:11. And it is, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope in the future. And so I thought this was very relevant to what I will be disclosing today, just simply because even when we do not know our plans, having that assurance that God does. And not only does he know them, like God created them uniquely and specifically for each and every one of us to occupy at some point. And just to know that there are plans to prosper us and not to harm us, plans to give us a hope in the future. So that just serves as a reminder that when things seem hazy to you and in your vision, like God has 2020, like he sees everything. Nothing is a surprise, and there are plans to prosper you. So yeah, I hope that encourages you as you listen to the video. So I am very big on just like inclusion and making sure everybody can benefit from this. So I've separated this video into I've separated the topic into three separate categories, if you will. So I have the employed, the unemployed, and the chillin'. And they are exactly what they sound like, but I will make sure to clarify as I go through it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's go. So the first one is the category that I fell into when I graduated from college, which is the employed. This is the people that have their next steps together. They know what they are going to be doing next, who they're going to be working for, or at least they think they do. And so if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I had a job my first semester of senior year. So this is my personal experience. Either I learned to do this or I wish I had. So the first thing I'm going to cover is to research the area, your new area. That sounds like common sense, but after talking to like a lot of like my peers and my friends and different students who have went on to do exactly what I did as well, it's really not. We have this thing where as young people, I feel like we are very spontaneous, or we can be very sporadic, and we like to go into things and kind of wing it, like finesse it, if you will. And so this is not something you want to finesse like in the slightest because you're going into uncharted territory. You're going to places where you've never been. And so I don't know about you, but having something waiting for you there, having something prepared for you is just going to overall help you be more successful when you get there. So researching the area, what does this look like? I know for me, I took a weekend trip. You know, that's when I secured my living. Now I did research before that weekend trip, but I came here, kind of get a feel for the city, you know, learn about what were the spaces that I'd be occupying while I'm here, you know. Where should I be? Where should I not be? How to navigate, you know, kind of just to get a feel of where I would be spending the next how many every year. And I know the way some of us come out of school and the way our pockets are set up, we don't have the resources to maybe just take a random trip, and that is okay too. So my next recommendation is to go to your primary sources. So this is going to be your friends and your family, and even to an extent your social media. It can be used as a tool, just like it can be used as a weapon, honestly. So just simply hashtagging your state, or better yet, the city you're going to be living in, and just seeing, you know, know, what kind of events are popping off, what's going on, like what kind of posts are you seeing associated with the area in which you're gonna go stay in. It's just all to get an idea so you're not taken off guard when you get there. As you're doing your research, you need to be identifying your key needs, and your research needs to provide those solutions. So I knew off rip I wanted to have a church. I knew that was the thing that I needed to stay grounded. And so I was actively seeking out, you know, what people knew about the state of Indiana and what churches were there. And so luckily, you know, by the grace of God, I was definitely given a recommendation for the church that I now attend. It's great, it's awesome, and I love it. But that was something that I really needed, and I wanted to be set up before I got here. You know, I didn't want to have to search and seek. I wanted a life waiting for me here. Another thing on a smaller scale is like hair and like the gym and like doctors and stuff like that. Go ahead and have those things lined up so that you're not having to create that trail when you get here. So that's more personal. But from a professional standpoint, which I'm gonna call this like pre-work prep, essentially just start looking for what your company is providing to you even before you touch down. So for me, for instance, I didn't know this, but there was like a pre-hire like group me or Facebook group. And so a lot of the people I came in with either had already hung out because they connected on that forum, and or they like could put a face to a name, right? So it's just a matter of being ahead of the 8 ball than behind it. It's beneficial. Also, just understanding what's expected to you at your first day. Usually that's orientation. I know I had to bring, you know, a number of documents because they were making our badges and they were just making sure we were who we said we were. So make sure you know, call whoever it was who hired you in, you know, call and get the information. Make sure you know what's expected of you. So that's what you can do for the employed. So let's go to the unemployed. Now this was not, obviously, this was not the space that I was in, and so I was extremely intentional about learning about it and talking to people who were in it before, I guess, reporting on it, if you will, because I wanted to approach everything with the utmost respect. And so for this one, I had a really great friend who graduated a semester after me, who was unemployed for about 4 to 5 months after graduation, and it was a very challenging and hard time. Now she has a job though. And so we would oftentimes call this her season of no's, because she just kept getting no's, right? But before I start talking about this, I want to highlight a verse in the Bible, and it's Ecclesiastes 3:1, and it says, "For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under the sun." And so this is just to remind you that the same way there's going to be seasons of prosperity, there's going to be seasons of pruning, there's going to be seasons of yeses and nos and closed doors and open doors. And so just because right now this is what you're experiencing, just to remind you that like it is right now, it is a season. And oftentimes we think rejection equates to failure. And it doesn't. It equates to redirection. It's a perfect time to figure out, take it to God. God, where do you want me to be? Where am I supposed to be at? Where are my efforts supposed to be going, right? You know? So this is a good place to be. So the first step I have for you here, this is kind of a merge between my thoughts and my friend's thoughts and, you know, her experiences, to be bold and unconventional. And so I think a lot of times we say we want things, but we really don't have that hunger and that thirst for it. We really are not getting it out the mud and grinding it out. And so just for an example, I'll give you some things that she did during this season of being bold and unconventional. So she graduated from the University of Tennessee, and she probably lived about 2 hours, 2.5 hours away. But every job fair, every career fair, every business mixer, every professional development piece, she was there. She made it a point to be there because she was hungry for her opportunity. She was making sure she was positioning herself to walk into her next opportunity. That doesn't mean to beg and to crawl and to cry and be outright desperate. That's not what it's saying, but it is saying to work hard for it and be unconventional, do things maybe you're not comfortable with. Another thing she would do is, now I told you she was unemployed for about for about 4 to 5 months. She filled out 7 job applications a day. I'm not telling you to do that. You know what I'm saying? You need to figure out what works for you, because that might not be your portion. But I call this a piece of the pie. When there's a huge pie that needs to be ate, you don't eat it all in one. You cut it up into pieces and then you attack it piece by piece until it's gone, right? So that's something to think about. Like, you know, you're doing these smaller tasks that may feel very small and very monotonous, but these are the small goals that end up to the ultimate one, right? And this may be the process. Nobody likes it. It's not sexy. It's not cute. It's hard work, but it gets you to the next point and the next stop. So just the second thing and the final thing is just being persistent. I know we hear that in kind of one ear and out the other, but as you're getting told no, as it feels like doors are closing in your face, it's hard to stay persistent. And I read this tweet that said, it's okay to rest, but it is not okay to give up. Do not give up. Like, you cannot give up. That is not an option. Keep going, keep pressing forward, and have a support system behind you. And if you don't have one, I'll be one. DM me. Yeah, DM me. I got you. And then, like I said, setting the smaller goals that lead to the bigger ones. The goals that you don't think really make a difference, but in time, they really do. All right. So we are now at the chillin', and it is what it sounds like. It's the people who are just chilling, who are not looking for a job. They're not looking for much of anything, but just to chill out, hang out, find out some things, and that's perfectly fine. I have some brilliant friends who have graduated and said, hey, I want to take a gap year. I'm going to travel, or I want to take a gap year and, you know, I'm just going to kind of chill out, stack my money, figure out what I'm doing next. And I need you to know that, like, that's okay. You know, do not feel disappointed being in that space. In our society, in our culture, in the climate that we live in, and especially our generation, there are these man-made standards that we're supposed to hit X, Y, and Z by certain ages and by certain, you know, whatever. And once again, those are man-made. You know, we are not all the same. We all have a unique journey that we're walking. And so just do not feel like you should be further along or more advanced than what you are. Like I said before, we have seasons. You know, there are seasons of life where different things are supposed to transpire. And, you know, I mean, sometimes being still is perfectly fine. In fact, like, that's in the Bible, right? So just understand that and be encouraged as we walk through this. I call this the soul search season. And so this is a time where you can be traveling and reading and writing and, you know, interviewing people that you wanna kind of be like, in a way, and interviewing people who maybe you see they've made mistakes and you want to learn from their life, and praying and identifying those role models. And I'm not saying you can't do this in any of the other categories, but what I am saying is you have that excess time to do it and really dig in. You know what I'm saying? This is the time for yourself. This is all this free flowing whatever. So use it, and pour into yourself. In this season, I think in any season, it's extremely easy to do this, but specifically in this season, especially with all the free time, you know, the Bible says that an idle mind is the devil's playground. So you could be using your time to invest in yourself, or you could be just hanging out, not doing much with an idle mind. And so oftentimes we compare ourselves. And so I want to talk about, like, death by comparison, which is the concept that death kills so much. It kills confidence, it kills dreams, it kills our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, and so on and so forth. The list is so long. And I feel like this is because at our fingertips, we just have so much power. We have so much access to see what everybody's doing in the world at that second. And the thing about that is it's always going to be someone who appears to be doing better. We can play both sides of the token. People say, well, oh, that's Instagram, right? And people are only giving you the best versions of themselves. And you know what I'm saying? You're not seeing what's going on behind the lens. You're not seeing the credit cards that are being maxed out. You're not seeing the bills that are coming because they're in designer and whatever you may have you. But even on the other side of the token, there may have been people who are outright grinding to get to that, and they're occupying their space, right, in their greatness or whatever, or maybe they were born into it. Who knows? And really, who cares? Because the more you sit down and compare yourself to the next person is the less that you're developing yourself. So how you can use this energy for good, instead of by comparing, we talked about that developmental piece. So this is the time to figure out, you know, what do you like? what don't you like? You know, what is it that you want to know more about? And so that's an internal journey and an external one, finding out those things about yourself and then finding out those things about your environment and the world around you. These things all shape you to be who you are. And as you incorporate God into that journey, he won't only reveal things to you about you, but also about himself, which brings you to, you know, what is his will for you, which helps you find that next opportunity, and so on and so forth. And so really just focusing on that developmental piece and understanding that you don't have to know your next step. You don't have to know your next plan for a God who has told you, right, that I have plans for you to prosper you. And so it's just believing that and having faith in that. And so I hope this helps someone. I really just felt this laid on my heart to do the video. And so hopefully you take some value from it. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.